Okay, this video is going to be short and sweet. What we're going to be dealing with is Plato Complete Works, edited by John M. Cooper. We're going to glance at Plutarch's Lives, Volume 1. More specifically, Plutarch's work on Solon, and we're going to just be using the general map. So, like you saw, the title of this video is Did Plato know about the American continent as a whole? North America, South America, Central America, etc. And to answer this question, we're going to go to his story of Atlantis. Now, I'm neither for nor against Atlantis. This video isn't about Atlantis, but we're gonna go to his Plato's story about Atlantis to answer the question of did he possibly know about the Americas, the American continent, North America, Central America, and South America. Now, Plato claims in his writings of Timaeus and Critias, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Matter of fact, let me just show you which one I'm talking about. I just didn't want to be too long. All right, in his work Timaeus. Now, in his work Timaeus, he basically says that it's a man named Critus. Okay, I apologize for the downtime. Critus. Critias. In Egypt, Critias began in that point, blah, blah, blah. Well, this guy, Critias, is telling a story about a man named Solon and saying that when Solon went to Egypt, he spoke with an Egyptian priest who told him the story of Atlantis. So Plato claims that the story of Atlantis comes from a man named Solon who got that story from a priest in Egypt. Now, Plato doesn't give you the name of that priest, whether he's real or not, but you find that the name of that priest in Plutarch's works of lives, his life about Solon, the guy that's supposed to have got this information from the Egyptian priest. And so you see this right here, Sanchez, and Sanchez, the Saite, the most learned of all the priests, from whom, as Plato says, getting knowledge of the Atlantic story, he put it into a poem and proposed to bring it to the knowledge of the Greeks. So Plutarch is saying that this is the name of the priest that gave him this story, but it's how the story describes it. Okay, it's how the story describes it that leads me to believe that Plato knew about the continent of the Americas, although they say by the time of Columbus, they thought that they were going to fall off the edge. People knew about the quote unquote New World long before Columbus. Just this part. Look, for at that time, this ocean was passable, since it had an island in it in front of the strait that you people say you call the Pillars of Hercules. This island was larger than Libya and Asia combined, and it provided passage to the other islands for people who traveled in those days. From those islands, one could then travel to the entire continent on the other side, which surrounds that real sea beyond. So, basically, what he's saying is, for at that time, this ocean was passable. For at that time, this ocean was passable, the Atlantic Ocean, since it had an island in it in front of the strait that you people say you call the Pillars of Hercules. It's saying that it was an island in the center of this ocean that was on the outside of the strait that those people, the Greeks, called the Pillars of Hercules. Now, that's the Strait of Gibraltar. That's the strait. That's the so-called Pillars of Hercules. You see, Athens, Greece is here. All right, where my finger at. That's Athens, Greece, right above Egypt. Okay, and so in their world, this Mediterranean Sea is where they did a lot of their stuff at. So to get out of that, you went through the Straits of Gibraltar. So they was calling that the Pillars of Hercules, and out in the hill was what you know, some people may say, oh, it's the unknown, because the average person never came out here and traversed all of that. But he's saying that the Atlantis was situated right here, an island in this landmass on the outside of that. Now, whether or not that's true or not is irrelevant to me, because he goes on to say, this island was larger than Libya and Asia combined, and it provided passage to the other islands for people who traveled in those days. So he's saying that there was a big island right here that provided passage to the islands on the other side. So if you look, if it was a island, Atlantis, right here on the other side of the Straits of Gibraltar, the Pillars of Hercules, it's saying it is leading to some islands. And what do you find right over here? It's islands. An accurate depiction. You got the Bahamas and you got the Caribbean islands. Okay, so if it was something there, it would definitely lead to islands. So Atlantis may not have been there, but the description about what was on the other side is correct so far. Again, and it provided passage to the other islands for people who traveled in those days. From those islands, one could then travel to the entire continent on the other side. So from these islands, you could travel to the continent on the other side. Okay, on the other side of Atlantis, the islands and the continent. Look what it says about the continent, which surrounds that real sea beyond. Okay, so if you notice, look how high up the land apparently goes. It's even connected right here, so there's no way through, so it's all connected, and it goes all the way down, and then you even have a little part of Antarctica, so there's some space right there, but all in all, it's surrounding the sea. Okay, y'all look into that. I'm not gonna go too much longer, but for at that time this ocean was passable. Since it had an island in it from the strait that you people say you call the Pillars of Hercules. This island was larger than Libya and Asia combined, and it provided passage to the other islands for people who traveled in those days. From those islands, one could then travel to the entire continent on the other side, which surrounds that real sea beyond. All right, so did Plato know about the North American continent? You be the judge.